The air smelled of iron. I remember, even now, how the metallic smell clung to everything, our clothes, our skin, our souls. Dust settled thick as if the whole world had crumbled, and there we stood in the middle of it. It felt like time had stopped, but deep inside, my heart beat like a drum, warning me that something big had just happened. We were in the town square that day, not doing much. It was a market day, with chatter and laughter floating around us like music. Children ran between stalls, and the smell of roasted maize filled the air. People from neighboring villages had come to trade goods, to catch up, to just be together. But then, without any warning, the earth shook like a monster had woken beneath it. And in that split second, everything exploded. There was fire, there was dust, and there were screams. My ears felt as if they'd gone deaf from the roar of it. I remember falling, hitting the ground so hard my vision went dark for a moment. When I opened my eyes, I was covered in debris, bleeding from my forehead. And all I could see were the bodies, the torn market stalls, the rubble that was once our peaceful village center. Then I saw him, Kofi. He was barely standing, swaying in the smoke and dust. I watched as he struggled to pull himself up. His shirt was torn, blood covering his right arm. But he looked determined, like he was carrying some invisible weight he couldn't let go. I barely knew him back then, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. There was something in the way he moved, a strength that I had never seen before. As I tried to get up, he staggered toward a woman trapped under a wooden beam. She was crying, her hand reaching out, pleading. Kofi didn't think twice. He braced himself, gritting his teeth, and somehow lifted the heavy wood off her. The woman rolled out, coughing, her face smeared with dirt and tears. Kofi's arm was trembling, but he didn't stop. He just looked at her and said, "You're safe now." In the days that followed, people from nearby towns came to help us rebuild. Our village felt different, broken, yes, but there was this strength in everyone, a kind of silent promise to each other that we would make it through. I remember sitting on the steps of what used to be the market, watching Kofi help the others, carrying stones, lifting beams, bandaging wounds. He didn't say much, he just walked, his face calm and his eyes steady. Every day, he'd be the first to rise and the last to stop, and every day I found myself drawn to him a little more. It was late one evening, a few weeks after the blast, that I finally had the courage to talk to him. The sky was dark, the stars our only light as we sat on a fallen log together, looking over what was left of the square. I asked him how he managed to stay so strong when everything around us had crumbled. He turned to me with that same steady look, his face softened by the moonlight. My father always said strength is like fire. It can warm you, but it can burn too. I had to choose which one it would be. His voice was calm, gentle. I don't want to live a life where fear controls me. And there, under the stars, we talked for hours. He shared stories of his family, how he had survived more than this, how he'd always believed that life was about rising again, no matter how many times you fall. He listened as I shared my fears, my dreams, my grief. There was something healing about being next to him, like his strength was flowing into me, reminding me that I could be strong too. Weeks turned into months, and we began to rebuild, both the village and ourselves. But something else had started to grow between us. It was quiet, like a gentle river flowing, but it was there, an understanding, a bond that needed no words. Kofi and I were drawn together, not by the excitement of new love, but by something deeper, something rooted in survival, in knowing what it meant to lose everything and still stand up. One day, while we were laying stones for a new community hall, he reached for my hand. It was rough and calloused, like mine, but warm. I looked at him, my heart racing, and he smiled, the first true smile I'd seen on his face since the blast. "Will you stand with me?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. And that was it. We didn't need promises or fancy words. We both knew that life was fragile, that anything could change in a moment. But right then, we had each other, and that was enough. Today, when I tell this story to my children, they don't just hear about the blast or the destruction. They hear about the strength of a man who wouldn't give up, the kindness he showed when everything else was dark, and the love that grew, slow and steady, from the ashes of a broken village. And every time I look at Kofi now, I still see that strength, the fire that warms but never burns.